Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life could be, unfortunately this week, very, very dark and very, very miserable. So we're here to try and bring a little bit of light and a little bit of joy. I'll explain why in a minute, but joining me this week is Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Well, I'm not too bad. So yeah, it's been a rough mental health month as well as physical health month.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm powering through. I'm just getting there. I've got a lot of good stuff to focus on, which is always nice. But yeah, accepting that there are difficult things going on in the world at the moment as well.
Yeah, I don't want to go down there's always someone or something worse than what you've got going on thing. But I've had a couple of moments where I've been a little bit worries me, and then thinking with other events that have gone on, which I'll cover in a minute, it's like, yeah, it's not that bad. Pull your head out your arse sometimes. I know that's not the way to deal with mental health struggles all the time, but sometimes you need a good, have a word with yourself kind of thing, don't you? It does help now and again in the right moments.
Yeah, and it can be tricky to get the balance right. I think one of the things that's misunderstood quite a lot that I've noticed, because this is new to me as well, is understanding what you mean by be kind to yourself. It's not like just walking around in a cloud of belief that everything that you do is right and everything that you do is, you know, something that can be justified. It's more just take some moments to do very little things for yourself, and not blame yourself for them.
Yeah.
Especially if it's, you know, things that are traditionally thought of as, you know, wrong, like slobbing around or eating the wrong foods and stuff. But sometimes you just need to do that. And yeah, it's all about balance, but it is about giving yourself a little bit of slack and leeway and kindness and not beating yourself up and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm trying to do that. It's more important now than ever in this world, I think.
Yeah, totally. The little things make, are what keep you going, essentially. I've been suffering a little bit with imposter syndrome over the past couple of weeks as well, thinking I don't belong, don't deserve to belong, that's that kind of thing. This is going to be the hippiest sounding shit I will say, based on purely because of what I'm going to cover in a minute. But yeah, be kind to yourself. The little quirks that you like, or the little quirks about you, the little things that might be odd or don't seem that important, cherish them, because you don't know what's round the corner. As cliche as that sounds, you don't know what tomorrow brings, and if you don't enjoy the little things that bring you even the ounces of joy, then honestly there's no point, because that's what life has got to be. We're in a world where we're being told, you know, your only value is in what you can bring to society, whereas I disagree. I think your main value is what you can bring to yourself and those around you, and you being there, you being a light is just as important as, you know, what you can do in a job or what you bring to society, because you can't bring anything to society if you're not there. And I said that's the hippiest sounding shit I will say, but yeah, it kind of makes sense, I hope.
It absolutely makes sense. It really does. And, you know, we put so much of our value in what we achieve and what we produce. And it's completely wrong. It's who we are and what we, you know, how we are with other people and what we do for their lives that is the important part of it, really. And that's another part of looking after yourself and giving yourself some value. And you're right, it does sound like a load of hippie crap when you say it out loud. But I think that's partly kind of internalized sort of punishment as well for being kind and using kind words, and you shouldn't really feel that way. So be kind to yourself and don't feel guilty about it.
Now, this is hard to cover because not that I've ever been in this situation, but it's a situation I've been in before that never even thought about this could happen, and that's to cover the events of what happened in Kansas City this past couple of days, and that's the shooting at the Super Bowl victory parade. For those who don't know, Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl last Sunday. And it was a big deal for a lot of people because it had more eyes on it than probably ever before, because Taylor Swift is in a relationship with, I want to say his name's Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. So that was a big deal. So lots of like fans who probably wouldn't usually be bothered about football, American football that is, were eyes on. Me personally, I don't really watch much of the regular season. I keep an eye on how the Detroit Lions are doing, catch the odd game, but then try and watch the Super Bowl. But Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and it's brilliant for them. At the parade. And I've been to parades when Liverpool won the European Cup in 2005. I was at the parade, and it's like the most joyous time. It's almost more joyous than winning the final itself on the day, because the nerves aren't there. It's just pure celebration. And it was a day of pure celebration in Kansas City, celebrating the Super Bowl win when 3 people with, I believe, semi-automatic rifles decided to open fire. They killed 1 person. Lisa Lopez, who is a local radio DJ, and injured over 20 other people, including many of them children. And these weren't just like the odd like grazed bullet or anything. These were life-threatening injuries. So the death toll is 1. It could rise still, hopefully not, fingers crossed. It's devastating. It's really, really devastating. What should be the happiest day of many people's years. We've just spoke about how crappy life can be, your day-to-day can be. What should be a day of pure celebration is taken away from people. And sport has an ability that I think a lot of people, or people who don't watch sport, don't understand. Sport has a way of bringing you to the highest of highs. Yes, you can have the lowest of lows sometimes, but it brings you the highest of highs. A low after a defeat or a poor run lasts a few days. A high because your team's just won the Super Bowl, the European Cup, or the Premier League, or the Stanley Cup, or the World Cup, or whatever. That high can last for weeks. It can set you up for weeks upon the rest of the year. It can set you up for, because it's such an upwards, joyful feeling. And the parade is part of that. These fans of Kansas City, the residents of Kansas City, would have been having the best of times. And for people to take that away from them is cowardly, and it's disgusting. But the blame isn't just with the 3 gunmen. The blame, I'm sorry, that they will do this again. You're seeing it all again. You're seeing we condemn the acts, blah, blah, blah. Thoughts and prayers, blah, blah, blah. Nothing's getting done. Nothing's going to get done. It's not the time to talk about it. You can't change the laws because the laws will be broken. You can't just give people that freedom just to carry any kind of weapon around. It's not right. You saw these sort of like the old arguments are out the window with this one, because they say, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. It was at a parade. There was hundreds of armed police there. The supposed good guys with guns were there. They didn't stop it. They did not stop this happening. They might have mitigated it a little bit, but they did not stop it happening. And I heard something really devastating earlier today, actually. It was a host of Fox Sports, I'm assuming in Missouri, was talking about, he was there at the parade at the time, and he was saying about he spoke to an older woman when he got back to his hotel. There was an older woman there. She was a Kansas City fan. Said she was there with her family, so she had her children and her grandchildren there, and she said the one who had to take the lead on what to do was their 14-year-old granddaughter, because she was the only one who had been fully trained on what to do in a mass shooter situation because of being at school at the time, being in high school, because children are being trained at a young age how to deal with mass shooting situations. And it's like, that is the most devastating thing I've heard in quite some time. More so than the shooting itself, and it is devastating, it's tragic. Children are being taught how to handle a mass shooting situation. And their parents can't do it. The children are having to protect their elders because the situation's got so bad now. And America still won't do anything about it. And every time people go, what's the answer? What's the answer? Well, whenever there's a war, America flies in, they're the heroes. They will fly in and they will take out these regimes and do whatever. Maybe it's time that people went into America and started fixing America, because it's a fucking joke. You can edit out the swear if you want to. I don't mind. But it is a fucking joke. The cowards need sorting, and not just the cowards with the guns, the cowards in power. Whether that is the Republicans who don't want people taking the guns, or whether it's the Democrats, they're worse. The Democrats, when they get in, have every chance to go, actually, no, we are sorting this. We have said we're opposed to gun violence. You could do something because you have not got the NRA on your back supporting your party. You could do something. You don't do something. And quite frankly, they're cowards. They are worse than anyone. And it needs sorted. Sorry, it's a rant. It's one too many times. And I'm not I've been to these sort of parades. It could have been me, because in this country, thankfully, I don't think it can be. But I don't know, Stu. I just words.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it just gets too much to try and understand or cope with, and it's totally understandable to be in that situation, because it's overwhelming. Really, it is overwhelming. Yeah. And it's again, going back to the be kind to yourself thing. The best thing that we can do, I suppose, is just acknowledge that it's wrong and that it is overwhelming, and not try and solutionize or feel guilty or feel distant, or just feel the context of there's nothing that we can do currently, but that it's a terrible event. And that is a very frustrating thing to feel, because especially in an election year in America, and with a lot of problems with Roe v. Wade being overturned, and a swing very much towards the right. And it's all sorts of things that you can just see coming and predict. It's very obvious, very predictable, putting a demagogue in charge, just marginalising groups, trying to institutionalise people, making the bill to make people who are homeless illegal, trying to go through. It's all about trying to consolidate right-wing fascist ideology. And yeah. The NRA thing ties into that, but it's all part of this bigger, wider system. And the one thing that we can hope is that there is hope, and that there is change, and that we try and just be. I don't really know how to even say it. It's just there's just very little we can do. It's just devastating, completely wrong, completely avoidable. A situation that humankind has developed for itself, but generally, and the thing I'll leave it on. Generally, people are kind. Generally, people are lovely. There's a minuscule fraction of people who cause this massive trouble. So solving it would be fairly easy. Restrict the guns, restrict the bullets, and suddenly most of the problem starts to go away. So let's fingers crossed that that's something that can happen in the future.
And the fact we are devastated by it, outraged by it still, is only a good thing, because it shows we haven't all been completely desensitised. We haven't completely gone, it's just part of the world now.
Yes.
So, but I do want to choose my words almost, because I said I wasn't going to do that thing I do. But we need some good news as well coming out of America. So before I transition to talking about video games, I'm going to talk about transition-related stuff. Will Ferrell and a good friend of his are doing a documentary for Netflix. Now, Will Ferrell's friend is 61 years old, and I think they are in the movie industry. I can't remember their name, unfortunately. But Will Ferrell's good friend, at 61 years old, decided they was going to finally transition. They've been living their entire life a lie, and they was going to transition. And Will Ferrell had no opinion, apparently, on transgender rights. Didn't really bother him one way or the other. Which is fine. I'm okay with someone who goes, I'm not that bothered, do what you want to do. Doesn't have an extreme view either way. That's fine. But has learned about their friend wanting to transition, has been very, very supportive, and has decided in that time to learn what it is to be in the wrong body, to be transgender, and has commissioned an 8-part documentary series on Netflix to talk about and go through what this is to his friend, a person he cares about, which I think's something really good to see. I hope this is Netflix also deciding that we've gone a bit too far the other way in terms of the coverage we give trans people with like Ricky Gervais and Dave Chappelle and things like that. So great, positive news. Will Ferrell has always come across as... I'm not a big fan of his films. I'm not a big fan of his comedy overall. I think he does some pretty naff films, but he always seems to have a good time, and he seems like one of Hollywood's good guys. And he seems likeable by a lot of people. So he's someone of Will Ferrell status, who's done crude comedy and all that everyone seems to like, and even the anti-trans people seem to like. If someone like him can show a positive side to what it is to be trans and what it is to support a trans person, then brilliant. Some good news coming out of America. There are still some good people there.
Absolutely great news. It does make such a vast amount of difference. There's direct correlation between what people who influence your mind, influence your feelings, say and do, and how people react to that. We've seen that with, the negative side of Rishi Sunak recently, and I'm pretty confident that this will be on the very, very positive side and have a really good impact. So, yeah, that is great news. It's a nice one to end on this section at least.
It is indeed. So, let's talk about video games, shall we? Say we're going to bring some light and joy, so let's actually bring some light and joy. I've got 2, you've got 1, but my throat's hurting a bit now. So, because I've done a lot of talking. So, tell you what, you go first, Stu.
Oh, with absolute pleasure. So, yeah, I've been playing a game on my lovely little Steam Deck. Well, I say little, it's kind of like a table. But, that's because I've got dinky little hands, as I've said several times. But I still enjoy it so much. It's such a great device. I'd not been playing for a while, and this was my first game back after a bit of a gaming break. An enforced one, unfortunately, but what I've been playing is a game called Shapeshifter: Formations, not colon formations. If you got those, you probably need to see a doctor. But yeah, Shapeshifter Formations, and my elevator pitch for it is it's Geometry Wars but Vampire Survivors. So it looks
sold.
Yeah.
Well done. I'll buy that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is pretty much that, as it's stamped on the tin. It's like you've got a little arena, a curtailed space that's quite small. It's like, pretty much just the boundaries of the screen, but a little bit bigger. And you're within that, and enemies are generated, and similar to Geo Wars and, things like Don't Die, Mr. Robot, there's a combination of enemies that, pop in and attack you, and enemies that pop in and just have patterns that they follow. They don't care that you're there, they're just doing patterns. And I think that's kind of what makes it a Geo Wars game as opposed to something else. So it's got that Geo Wars element, but it's got your Vampire Survivors basic structure of, you go in, it's a roguelike, the longer you go on, the more sort of points you accrue. You collect little tokens from killing stuff, and then you spend those tokens on items that will, are buffs basically. And you also, we have a couple of economies like these things tend to do. So you've got your general one of picking stuff up and buying buffs, and then you've got your special ones of the further you get and the more you achieve, the better weapons you pick up. And you can pick different ships and different weapon types. It's all, as you'd expect from that. So it's a really lovely looking game. I really like the aesthetic. It's, runs flawlessly on the deck. It's got that neon kind of futurism Tron look to it that Geometry Wars and its clones have, which is always a pleasant, simplistic but pleasant look. It's got reasonably decent effects, nothing crazy. It's not, voxels like with the with Resogun or anything like that, but it's a very attractive looking game. The kind of the readability of it's not bad. It can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes when you've got like a limited colour palette that you've deliberately gone for and everything's neon. It can be a little bit difficult to track your ship. They do a good thing where the underneath of your ship is lit up and kind of like elevated, so it's kind of like you're dragging a gravity bubble around with you, so it looks like you're disturbing the ground, which is a clever way of doing things. There's a lot of neat touches like that. It's put a lot of thought into it, into the way that it looks and moves. The regular combat is okay, so this kind of starts treading on my biggest issue with the game, which is that there's not much punch to the weapons, and getting that balance right is always a bit of a challenge, and this is in early access, so it might change. But yeah, getting that balance can be tricky, where you want to feel like, aha, blasting stuff, nice. Oh my god, there's loads of things now, I'm running away. But then you get something else and you're like, aha, the shoe is back on the other foot. Now kicking ass again.
Yeah. And it almost needs that Looney Tunes like Roadrunner Coyote back and forth thing that you get.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the shifting balance of power and making sure that even your pea shooter feels like it's got a bit of heft. Making sure that you've always got your equivalent of Gordon Freeman's crowbar type situation. I think it kind of misses its grasp a little bit on that. It's not a massive thing, but it's a little bit fundamental. I always feel a little bit underpowered, even coming into it with like all the buffs that I've got after about 4 hours of play. So that, I think there's a little bit of an issue with the kinesis, of things being impactful enough. They could buff that up a little bit, I feel, and make it a little bit more impactful. So it kind of puts a little bit of a wishy-washy layer over it, because it doesn't thump, doesn't have that kind of crunch that you particularly like. So it's very smooth, it's very slick, very well put together. Perhaps needs a little bit more of that impactful feel to it, but you go through, you fight your bosses. It's very, 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 very challenging. I'm not sure how big it will be. I've only made it up to the second boss on multiple, obviously, playthroughs, and the second boss is absolute monster. I was going at it for probably 5 or 6 minutes, and it's still got like 3/4 of a health bar. It's like really, 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 really tough. So it's definitely got the level of challenge. It's definitely got lots of variety. It certainly looks the part, and it is good fun. It's not really massively wowing me, but it's doing enough for me to keep going back to it at the moment.
Yeah, just over a £5 as well. I suppose it's one of those where you just go, do you know what? Even if I'm going to get a couple of hours value out of it or whatever, that's plenty. Yeah, it does look really interesting. I've just looked at like the trailer as you were talking as well, and it's kind of got that balance between like Geometry Wars 2, Super Stardust Delta, and Geometry Wars 3, which is the more 3D stylized one. And yeah, I like the look of it. I do like the look of it. I take it, is it a proper twin stick shooter? It's not like an auto shooter like Vampire Survivors, is it? It's a proper twin stick.
It's optional. You get the choice. Oh. Yeah. You can have it either way. I actually prefer it with the auto at the moment. It just seems to be very accurate, and it's such a hectic game that that's what it's working for me. But yeah, you got the option. Yeah,
that's really good, because part of me, if you ever wanted to play Vampire Survivors and go, I'd like to have a bit of control just to see how it goes with some of those weapons. Probably not. It's probably just me, but I like auto shooters. I really do, because I think we spoke about it before. The simplicity, it brings that monkey ball simplicity to it, where it's all about watching the screen and sort of navigating the screen in the best way possible. But no, it looks good. You can sort of see from the trailers the issue you have with the lack of punchiness with some of the weapons. But he said hopefully it's something that gets fed back to them, and they can add. What would you say could add that punchiness? Is it the weapon shot, like the weapon damage it does, or is it maybe the animations or something? Do they need like better animations to sort of like as they hit that you feel like they're doing something, or is it something else?
Yeah, I generally tend to find with these things that hit reactions are what do it. A combination of the audio and hit reactions. I've not listened to a lot of audio. I do tend to like play with the sound quiet or off. I know that's like sacrilege to a lot of people, but just the way my life is, that's the way that it is sometimes. But I think the sound is great. But yeah, I think more kinetic reactions, hit reactions when they happen, bit more knockback maybe, bit more colour change. You could explore all of that, but I also think that the weapons could do more damage, and you could either, if you need to do a rebalance based on that, I think that wouldn't be too difficult. Like you could have more enemies, or the frequency change, or the amount of health on some of them get rebalanced. But I would have a look at those things if it was me, and try and punch it up a little bit on those fronts.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to pick it up regardless, because it does look interesting. I say, even if I only get a couple of hours out of it, that's definitely value for money. So yeah, cool. Be interested to hear back when it hits full release what it's like, as well, whether they do make those improvements, because we should all listen to Stu.
Well, that's what I always say. Yeah, I think I've got the final say on these things. But I mean, they did it with Greedland. I talked about it on the podcast when it was in early access, when I was playing the demo. And I bought the full game, and the full game is very, very differently balanced. It's actually harder, but it still feels punchy. So yeah, these things do change. Yeah, they do change. So I will come back to it in the future, see what's going on.
Excellent. So moving on from shifting of shapes and shooting feeds, I've got nothing for this one. I've been playing, and this will blow your mind, right? It's a single player MMO puzzle game, exploration game. Yes indeed. Okay. It's called Islands of Insight, and I saw the trailer for it and I went, I fancy that, because it's a little bit Talos Principle but with different types of puzzles. So my initial thought was, I like Talos Principle and I like the puzzles, but the puzzles are a bit samey in Talos Principle. Not to its detriment, but they are a bit samey. Okay. So this, I saw trailers for this, and it's like very, very different. Load like 20 odd different types of puzzles in there. But you go around, you wander these islands, and there are these puzzles. They're claiming there's like over 10,000 puzzles, which means there's a lot. When it's broken up to about 20 different types, that's a lot of puzzles of each different type to do. But the exploration in the game is really, really good. The puzzles range from excellent, so there's like what's that what was that? Do you remember Polarium on the Game Boy Advance? It was a puzzle game where you had white and black tiles, you had to, so it's got like puzzles like that. It's got like place to shape type puzzles, and so it's got loads of different types of puzzle types. I won't go through them all, but sliding puzzles are in there and everything. But it's all mixed with this exploration of these beautiful islands, and they are beautiful. There's this lore, there's this discovery there, and it's a really relaxing game to be in. I don't think I've discovered like half of it yet, and there's still like more to do. It's got character customization in there, and it's purely single player, but it's an MMO, which is just weird. So you play it through yourself at your own pace, doing your own thing, but it's a shared island. Now, that's the bit I don't get and I don't care for, because it doesn't need a shared island, and because it's a shared island, it's online only, which means, one, I've not been able to play it on the Steam Deck yet, which is a pain, because I really want to play it on the Steam Deck, because I enjoy playing the Talos Principle on the Steam Deck. And two, why? I don't get why it needs to be online. The multiplayer, like the actual interaction with other people, so minimal It's not needed. It feels like they started with an idea and then brought it back, went, oh, this actually works really well, but didn't want to lose maybe what their original plan was. I just couldn't take it out because it really doesn't feel like it's needed. It, excuse me. And I checked a lot of the complaints, and a lot of them also say along the lines of, why is this MMO? Why does this need to be online? Give me an offline mode. And I'm of the agreement. It's a brilliant game. Brilliant game. I said the puzzles are a mix of interesting and challenging. The exploration is beautiful. I'm getting so much from it, but at the same time, I can't fully recommend it because it's always online MMO that isn't an actual MMO bit that's in there. It's weird, which is a shame because if it didn't have the MMO side of it, which I do wonder was put in there maybe to maybe do some economy stuff down the line, it'd be brilliant.
It does sound very strange. I mean, what's the end game? What's the goal? Is there one, or are you supposed to try and do 10,000 puzzles? Because that would take literally years.
The puzzles are short. Like I'm like, puzzles can take seconds, some of them. So I think it's just a number, and it's just something you can go back to time and time and time again and still have something fresh to do, which I'm all for. You know, the match 3 puzzles is, I've probably done, say, like, over 1 million probably match 3 puzzles and games in my lifetime. Like, match 3 so many different times that it probably eclipses what this offers, for example. So when you're going those 10,000 and maybe 1,000 of them are match 3 puzzles, it's not a lot for each. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of those games where I'll look back on it in a couple of years and I'll see it and I'll go, oh yeah, that was really interesting. Why did I stop it? Oh yeah, that's why I stopped playing. And the problem you've got is with puzzle games, I like to go back to puzzle games years down the line. I still go back and play like Puzznic from like the old like Spectrum days and the old arcade days and stuff like that, and I can. But if this is a permanent online world and they decide to shut down the server in 3 years, I can't go back and enjoy the puzzles. And that's an immediate downer for me, which is unfortunate, because apart from that, honestly, it is a brilliant, brilliant game. The puzzles are brilliant, the exploration's brilliant, it looks lovely, it feels good. Just this weird online thing that doesn't seem like it's needed.
Well, it sounds like one of the most curious games of the year so far, so that's interesting at least.
Yeah. It seems to, I mean, generally seems to be the consensus. Everyone loves it, but it's like, why? What's this weird thing they've done with the MMO stuff? So, yeah. But moving on. I've been playing a brand new game as well, Stu. Right.
Exciting.
There's this new game coming out. I think the character might, if they nail this, the character could become iconic. Okay. I've been playing, right, and it's really good of them, right? They brought out more than one game at the same time with this as well.
Wow.
Brand new IP, right? It's called Tomb Raider 1 to 3 Remastered. So, you know, wow. No, seriously though, the original 3 Tomb Raider games with a lick of paint. And that's pretty much what you get here. Now, I'm all for these. I think the bare minimum, and this does the bare minimum in the right way. This is not an insult when I say bare minimum, okay? But Aspyr and Crystal Dynamics developed this, and this is what they've done right. It's Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 with a lick of paint. That's what you get. But with also the choice of modern controls, and it also includes all the expansions. Now, I've not played the original Tomb Raider since like 2001 or 2 or something like that, and it's not aged well on the whole. You have to go into it, you know, if you're going to show this, if I was going to give this to like Lucas or Edith and go, here, have it this, they're going to look at me and go, you lost your mind, Dad.
Yeah,
this is a video. What?
Yeah.
But for me, I went back and it took me I went, oh no, like How do I grab a ledge? I forgot how to grab a ledge. When you jump, I'm like, well, I just want to jump and grab a ledge. Why can't I just jump and grab a ledge? And I've remembered, you got to press the shoot button to grab a ledge, because that makes sense. And obviously, remembering take controls for Lara Croft, and it's like, oh my God, I forgot about take controls. But making there's modern controls, you still got to press shoot to grab a ledge, because that's fundamental, apparently. But you can turn off take controls and move her around a bit, which I don't mind. Controversially, I prefer the modern controls. Lots of people are saying they go, oh no, not modern controls. Oh no, not in my Tomb Raider. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You've got the choice. Good. That's what I want. Quality of life, give choice. Overall, and you press the start button, you switch between original graphics, liquor paint graphics. Okay, really, really good. I think Halo did that. Is that right? Halo Remastered did that really well.
It did, yeah, perfectly. Yeah.
This does it. And I really like this because the liquor paint stuff overall works really, really well. They've kind of stopped Lara looking like a weird pointy freak. They've not decided to make her more proportionate, so she's still got massive, massive boobs for no reason whatsoever, but they're just less pointy in the liquor paint stuff.
Yeah.
You stick to that overall, but there's some areas where it's really dark because they've done lighting and all stuff like that. Obviously, they've got better textures, so it gets really, really dark in some places. So press start, go to the old graphics where there's no shadows and stuff like that, or less shadows. And you can see where you are, and then switch back when you're ready, like that. It's absolutely fine. More of that, please, in your old game remasters. They're not great by today's standards, we know that, but preservation-wise, yeah, all for it. More ways of preserving games. And I can't remember how much it came out. 25 quid for 3 games. Yeah. Do you know what? That's cheap enough where I go, I'm happy to have these, and I can move my disc versions away. If I had them, I can remove the ROMs from my Steam Deck that I was using on the PlayStation emulator for whenever I fancied it, because now I've got a modern collection of them that I've bought legally. Because, as we've always said, give us a reason to buy these games legally and play them well, we'll do it. And Tomb Raider proves that's exactly what works. It's not great. It's not like, oh my God, everyone's missed out on the greatest game of all time. It's definitely a game of its time, all 3 of them. But how good is it to have preservation like this, play these on the go? Again, you've got to think that's mental, right? If you said to me in 1996, you could play Tomb Raider, this version of Tomb Raider, on a handheld console, of which I had a Game Boy at the time, I would have gone, you're, what? You're crazy. But here we are. I'm playing Tomb Raider on a handheld that's overpowered for it. And it's fun.
Yeah, fun. It's such a funny series, isn't it? It's so strange. It's gone through so many iterations and it fell off a cliff so fast. Like, I remember, like, I really enjoyed the first game, when it came out. And I really thought that the second game was good, but I didn't really enjoy it. I was already over it. And I kind of gave up on it, and I didn't even bother with the third one. And then all the rest of them are supposed to be pretty rubbish right up until the reboot.
The reboot is the best Tomb Raider games of all time.
Yeah, I think whichever one, I always forget. I think it's Rise. It's the second one, Rise of the Tomb Raider, I think.
Yeah.
That I enjoyed the most. I tried Shadow, didn't like it. The first one was okay, but a bit thin. But still really good. It's really funny. I was watching the Digital Foundry review of this collection, and they made the point that modern games are, you use the running and jumping to get to the next combat section, whereas Tomb Raider is all about the movement. That's the game. The combat is an aside. The movement is the game, and we don't have stuff that we do have games like that. What was it called? That climbing game that you loved that was in your top 10. that for last year, that we do have ones that are specifically about doing things slightly differently. I don't think we have anything as monumentally big as this, that pushes things in weird and odd directions, and redefines what you can do. We haven't had something like that for quite some time, and it's interesting. But for a pure enjoyment sense, I think they're more of a curio these days than anything else, like you say.
Yeah, so what my thought would be with this is the amount of old ROMs I've got on various different systems and stuff like that, and my Metro handhelds, I pick them up, find a game, play that game for 5 minutes, put it down maybe for a week, go back, pick it up, play a different game for 5 minutes, because it's like, I've got an inkling to play like Dizzy. Treasure Island Dizzy, I've got an inkling to play it. I start playing it and I went, oh yeah, games have moved on from this a bit. But it was fun for 5 minutes. And Tomb Raider's now in that. Tomb Raider is so important because without it, I honestly don't think you have games like the modern Metal Gear Solid. You don't have Uncharted, those sort of games. You don't have The Last of Us. I don't think you have games like Vanquish, Shenmue, or anything like that. I don't think you have those if it's not for Lara Croft. If you don't have Lara Croft now, Samus Aran is obviously the first major female lead of a video game. But I think without Lara Croft, you don't see lead female characters in video games again. Because she became the pin-up. And not only was... And I hate saying this because, Jesus Christ, have you seen the character models of 1996 Lara? She was the sex symbol. She was the pin-up of female video game characters because she was sexy, and she was capable. She was smart. She was actually, she could look after herself. She was everything. She wasn't ever the damsel in distress. And she was such an important character for a time where women in video games were literally there to be saved or to ogle at. And she changed that by being a sex symbol, weirdly enough. Now, I look back and go, actually, people weren't bothered by Lara Croft, the character model. People actually were attracted to Lara Croft, the actual models who played Lara Croft at conventions and stuff like that. And the idea of Lara Croft. But she changed video games for the better. And she's the seed that gave us some of the best games we've ever played now. But the games themselves are of their time. But I look at my digital collection of video games as a museum. I could go back to and wander around this museum at any time I want. And to be able to do that with Tomb Raider without having to faff around. Because if I went to the British Museum and someone said, oh, you've got to jump through all these hoops and go and see this T-Rex skeleton, I'm like, nah. Do you know what? I don't think I'll bother. But if they go, oh, you just walk in and there's a T-Rex skeleton there, I'll be like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'll go and look at that. And these remasters offer you that. And brilliant. It's definitely a game of its time, brilliant of its time, still fun, right? That I will say, still fun, frustratingly fun, but still fun. And yeah, I'm glad to have it. Glad to have it. More of this, please. Siphon Filter next.
Yeah, what a great choice. Yeah, Colony Wars, G-Police, Siphon Filter. Yeah, they're the three that popped to the top of my head. Yeah, they'd be great.
Siphon Filter's aged badly.
Yeah.
But I like Tomb Raider. Glicker Paint, maybe give me some modern controls as an option. Yeah, I'm all in for a Siphon Filter remaster.
Yep, too right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for this week for me. Anyway, some good games. Next week I will be all in on my early candidate for Game of the Year, which is a poker-based roguelite. So stay tuned. It's Balatro. I don't need to hide what the game is. But I'm embargoed in giving a review on it.
Yeah. At least it's not Pal World. That's the main thing.
No, it's an original game. Oh! Shots fired.
Snap.
Oh, I know. Oh, can you feel the temperature dropping in here? That was cold.
Bitter.
I know. I mean, I don't even know how that game's still allowed to be online.
It's such a bizarre thing that.
What have they got on Nintendo?
I know. That's
because
crazy.
Nintendo has shut down fan projects that have a bare resemblance to the IP. Someone goes, I'll tell you what, it's Pokemon with guns, literally. And they go, I don't know what to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, I'm staying away from that.
I've not been playing that at all. I'll be playing Balatro, which I will talk about in depth for the next year.
Excellent. And until next week. So
well, shut up now.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't shut up yet.
I was jumping the gun and shutting you off. That's wrong.
Right, anyway, with all that said, I will shut up now.
Okie dokie. So, as usual, follow us on all the socials, look at all of our content on YouTube and on the website, join our Discord if you wish to chat about any subject at all, including mental health, and until next week, in the meantime, stay safe and stay sane.